as we get started today, I want to get right into it. Like I mentioned, we do have a featured speaker. We've all survived the elections, I think. I want to welcome Jennings Imel. Jennings is Executive Director of Congressional and Public Affairs for the Western region of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Jennings, welcome.
Great. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity, and obviously a lot to digest from last week. Hopefully we're all, recovered, or at least, pretty far along in the process to recovery. But still, obviously, some things that kind of need to shake out, particularly with two of the runoff races there in Georgia on the Senate side. And then, of course, there are several House races still around the country, in particular, a few here in California that have yet to be officially called as ballots continue to be counted. But, from the business community standpoint, of course, we were watching very closely what the results were going to be of last week's election. At the U.S. Chamber, we do not engage at the presidential level. We don't endorse presidential candidates. We never have. In our entire 108-year history, and we probably never will. That being said, we do, of course, get involved and endorse at the Senate level and also for House races. But certainly the presidential race was something that we were still watching very closely, and we look forward to working with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. We sent a congratulatory note to them. I think it was over the weekend when that race was kind of more officially called, as kind of the results in places like Pennsylvania, Nevada, places like that were kind of officially confirmed. So we obviously look forward to working with the administration. There's going to be a lot to do over the next couple of years, and certainly a lot to do over the next couple of weeks dealing with the pandemic that continues to be our number one priority at the U.S. Chamber. And we look forward to working with, obviously, Congress and with the current White House during the lame duck to address that, hopefully. But kind of looking at what the election is going to mean, as far as the landscape in Washington, D.C. is concerned, certainly. I think that we've seen some good signals from the incoming administration, the Biden-Harris administration, as far as where they'd like to go and tacking more to the middle, to the center. They've kind of been talking a lot about that. In fact, that was a big part of their appeal, right, to folks, was that they were going to kind of reestablish some sort of sense of normalcy in Washington, D.C. and work with Republicans. And there have already been a number of Republican names that have been floated, for potential cabinet positions, and then also into the administration and other positions. We're also happy to see there was a New York Post article that came out early this week that suggested that the Biden and Harris folks are looking particularly at our list of Hamilton Jefferson Bipartisanship Award winners. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but that's a new award that we came out with at the U.S. Chamber in 2019 to kind of to recognize and reward members of Congress that were being bipartisan. So essentially members of Congress that were signing on to bills that had authors from the other party. This is something new that we developed to try to incentivize more bipartisanship and working across the aisle. And it's great to see that the Biden and Harris folks are looking at that list, what members of Congress were on that list when determining what potential kind of moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, either from the House or Senate, they could choose for various posts in the administration. So that's good to hear. On the Senate side, I think we had a really, really great night at the U.S. Chamber. We made it clear, really, in the aftermath of the 2018 midterms, looking forward to what the election was going to be in 2020, that our number one priority, politically speaking, was going to be to maintain a pro-business majority in the Senate. There are a lot of folks going into election night that thought that wouldn't happen, that there would be some major shifts in Senate in some of these races, and that control of the Senate would ultimately swing. That, of course, did not happen, well, at least not as of yet. The current breakdown is 50 to 48 for next year. So as of right now, Republicans have only lost one net seat. Of course, there are the two Georgia runoffs. If they win both of those, then you'll have a 52-48 Republican advantage, which means that that's just, once again, one net loss from 53-47 that they currently have now. The three races that we were really kind of keyed in on and we thought would determine the balance of power in the Senate were Maine, where Susan Collins was running for re-election, Iowa, Joni Ernst, and then North Carolina with Tom Tillis. We figured that, Colorado and Arizona were probably going to be losses for the Republican incumbents, and in fact that they were by pretty large margins, and well, at least in Colorado. Arizona was a little closer. But those other three races we thought would be pivotal in determining the balance of power. And Republicans were able to win all three of those, keep those seats. And I think it was really impressive to see Susan Collins with a 9-point victory in Maine, which, all the polls were way off on that. A lot of people thought that she was, a significant underdog for many months this year. And so to see her pull off a 9-point victory, I think was impressive. And then it's also, I think it's great to see because Susan Collins has been the embodiment really of bipartisanship in the Senate. She's one of the most bipartisan senators. She always has been throughout her career. And so it's nice to see her get rewarded for that, particularly in times like these when seemingly there are fewer and fewer incentives for folks to act in a bipartisan way, and times are as polarized as they are. So good to see that. Joni Ernst, 6-point victory in Iowa, way bigger than people were expecting. Tom Tillis with a 2-point victory in North Carolina that was just called a couple of days ago. Some of the other races that folks thought were going to be close weren't all that close. You look at John Cornyn in Texas, 10-point victory there. Steve Daines in Montana, that was polling extremely close the last couple of weeks and months. 10-point victory there as well. Of course, we all know the extraordinary amount of money that was poured into South Carolina. Lindsey Graham, there was a lot of thinking that he might be in some real trouble. That ultimately did not come into fruition. He had a 10-point victory, pretty easy victory in South Carolina. And a lot of these folks, all of these folks that I mentioned, we endorsed. Many of them we put significant resources behind for re-election, in particular those top three races that I mentioned at the beginning in Maine, Iowa, and North Carolina. So happy to see that. And I think, quite frankly, you've seen it reflected a little bit in the markets. The fact that the business community is overall pretty satisfied with the results, at least as they stand now, looking at a Biden administration, but with a Republican Senate and a Democrat House. I think the odds are that we're going to see a lot of gridlock, which typically is a pretty good thing for business, especially because there were a lot of potentially really bad ideas that were gaining traction on the Democrat side of the aisle. And the thinking was if Democrats had full control of the government, some of these bad ideas that could potentially be harmful to business would end up happening. So we're not going to have to worry about that. At least it doesn't look that way. So I think that has been a good thing. And I think that you've seen the markets kind of respond accordingly to that. But that also means that we're going to have obviously bipartisanship more so now than ever, because we do have, several issues that need to be addressed. But of course, the major crisis being the pandemic and what the relief package is going to look like. Of course, we're hoping that gets done in the lame duck before we get into the next administration. But even when we get to the next administration, there are a number of big issues, whether they be, infrastructure, immigration. Of course, there continue to be issues around that. Healthcare, other outstanding healthcare issues. And with divided government, we're going to need to have folks kind of come together and be willing to cross the aisle. And so I think that that's where we at the U.S. Chamber can play a pivotal role in doing that. And when I mentioned kind of what our top priorities were in 2018, politically speaking, like I said, the first one was, of course, to maintain a pro-business majority in the Senate. The second one was to build relationships with House Democrats and to find House Democrats that we can endorse. And we did that. We endorsed 30 different House Democrats in this cycle. A number of them were victorious on election night. In fact, our overall record for folks that we endorsed in the House was pretty outstanding, I'd say. And I think that that's going to bode well for us too. Particularly as we look at kind of a diminished majority for Speaker Pelosi in the House, the fact that we have a contingent of House Democrats that are centrist, moderates, many of them, of course, lost last week, but many of them still remain, and that we have built strong relationships with, and that's going to be pivotal to getting things done, really to passing legislation in the House that actually has a chance of passing in the Republican-controlled Senate. So I think that's kind of, I think that's a long-term strategy that'll hopefully play out well for the business community over the next couple of years. And speaking of the House, a lot of big surprises there as well. I think most forecasters were thinking Republicans would lose between 10 and 20 seats in the House. And in fact, it looks like Republicans are probably going to gain about 10 or 11 seats in the House. There are a number of seats that have yet to be called, or a number of races that have yet to be called, particularly, like I said, here in California. But it does look like Republicans are going to have significant gains. We'll probably see a breakdown in the House of right around 221 to 214 if all of the kind of current numbers stay the same or are maintained over these next couple of days and weeks. That would be the breakdown: 221 Democrats to 214 Republicans. So very narrow majority. And of course, Speaker Pelosi has her own issues that she has to deal with, within the Democrat Party itself, between folks on the far left. That contingent, by the way, the more left-wing progressive contingent, has actually grown. A number of new folks are coming in that class. Meanwhile, several moderates who, as I mentioned, we kind of really made an effort to establish relationships with, they were defeated. So I think that's going to change the dynamics a little bit in the Democrat Party. But of course, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. It's like I said, very razor thin margin that they're going to be dealing with. So that could complicate things as far as getting legislation passed in the House. On the California side, of course, some big races that we weighed in on, including in your neck of the woods, California 50. We were happy to endorse Darrell Issa. We were very happy to see that he won election to that seat. He's been a longtime friend of the business community. Obviously, have known him very well. California 48, where Michelle Steele prevailed over Harley Ruda. We actually endorsed Harley Ruda, who's a moderate Democrat, but I know that we'll be able to establish a good relationship with Michelle Steele. Just knowing kind of where she is on issues, I don't think that'll be a problem. California 39, that looks, I don't know if that's been officially called, but that's the other race in Orange County where Young Kim has, I think, still about a 4,000 vote lead over Gil Cisneros. I suspect that'll be called sometime soon if it hasn't been called already. And then the other two outstanding races in California are California 25 and 21. 25 is that district in northern LA County, so Santa Clarita area, high desert, and then parts of Ventura County and Simi Valley. That was the old Katie Hill seat. And Mike Garcia, the Republican, won the special election there in May, and is in a rematch fight with Christy Smith, the Assemblywoman. I think last I saw, he was up 150 votes, and that's been going back and forth pretty much on a day-to-day basis. So that's extremely, extremely tight. And then California, and Mike Garcia, by the way, is somebody that we endorsed. And then California 21 is Central Valley District that's currently held by TJ Cox, freshman Democrat, who we endorsed, very moderate guy, going up against David Valadeo, who is a former congressman, represented that area for 3 terms. Also previously a friend of ours. So I think for the business community, either way, however that shakes out, I think it'll be good. But that district or that race is obviously very close as well. I think there's about 3,500 votes separating Valadeo and Cox at the moment. So those are the kind of the outstanding races in California. We'll see how that plays out, but we're going to have, like I said, very thin margins in the House. The Senate's going to be the same. Looks like we're going to be dealing with split government. And over the next couple of weeks or so, of course, before the new session is convened for the House and Senate and the new administration comes in, the number one priority has to be the COVID package. We need a relief package as soon as possible. As you all know, I know San Diego went back into the purple tier. Most counties in the state of California are still in the purple tier or red tier, but purple, of course, being the most restrictive. We're seeing that really across the country. Hospitalizations are up, closures are coming back. Even though we've started to recover from the pandemic, we still have 10 million fewer jobs now than we did in March before the pandemic really got underway. Assistance isn't available anymore for folks, right? So the PPP program, of course, that expired on August 8th. The airline program that was really helping kind of keep airline employees employed, that expired on September 30th. I think that the economic pain is only going to worsen probably over the next couple of weeks as we continue to see cases rise and new closures kind of take place really in all 50 states, and new restrictions. So hopefully that'll intensify the pressure on Congress to do something. I think that the results of the election also will kind of, I think, make it slightly more likely that we could see a COVID package done in the lame duck, just because I think that really from the Democrat side, from Speaker Pelosi's kind of angle, I think that she was looking for Democrats to have a better night on election night and to take control of the Senate and to have full control of government going into 2021. And therefore, the preference would have potentially been to wait until you have a Democrat Senate, bigger majority in the House, you have a Biden president, and then you could get kind of a COVID package that's more to your liking, that's closer to the 2.2 trillion or $2.5 trillion figure that she'd like to see. Of course, that's not going to happen. So I think that her leverage in that respect has kind of been diminished, and that she might be more willing to get something done in the lame duck and kind of clear the decks for the Biden administration when they come in next year. So that's good. The signals that we've seen from the Senate and Mitch McConnell have been positive. They want to move on this as soon as possible. The White House, it's a little less clear exactly where they're going to come down on this. Their kind of top line figures has been all over the place at $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion. So we're not exactly sure what they're going to be willing to accept. But certainly we hope that both the House and Senate will get to work on this as soon as possible. There's a huge gap, obviously, between the proposals that have been introduced in the House and Senate. Just top line figures, you're looking at $2.2 trillion in the House. It was difficult enough for the Senate to get to $500 billion. So getting them to go anywhere near a trillion or 2 trillion is going to be like crawling over glass. So that is a significant problem. The good thing is that, like I said, I think that the kind of pressure is going to be intensifying over the next couple of weeks to do something. And there is a consensus on some of these issues. The Paycheck Protection Program, very popular with both parties. The Airline Assistance Program, popular with both parties. Unemployment insurance, I think there's consensus that needs to be addressed, even if the numbers might differ a little bit. That needs to be included. More money for childcare providers for K through 12 education. I think there's some that. So some of these bigger issues, I think that Republicans and Democrats see eye to eye. 501c6s, right? Making sure that nonprofits and C6s are also made eligible for assistance. I think that's gained a little bit of traction, and we've seen proposals from both Democrats in the House and Republicans in the Senate to address that. So that is good news. But the two real issues that are problematic are liability protections, even though that's kind of a red line issue for Mitch McConnell, red line issue for Republicans. Democrats, for the most part, have been very resistant to including liability protection language for businesses, and then state and local funding. That was kind of the red line issue for Democrats, and for Speaker Pelosi, Republicans in the Senate had been much more hesitant to include state and local funding, although they've signaled some openness to doing something there. So that's a good sign. But I think those are really the two hang-up issues that are going to be difficult to address. But hopefully we can make some progress over these next couple of weeks, and we're going to continue to make the push at the U.S. Chamber. That's our biggest priority. And then after that, we can move on, looking forward to 2021 and seeing what other bipartisan opportunities there may be. But I know that was kind of a lot to go over. I think it was about 20 minutes or so. It's probably more than you needed to hear. But happy to take any questions if there's time for that.
I'm John Debevoise from Business Soup Talk Radio, and you did have quite the mouthful of information there. And from that, in my notes, of the top three of the things other than COVID, what do you see as the number one priority that you will be focusing in on after COVID for the support of small business?
Sure. So I think that, and this probably isn't going to be a big surprise, whenever you have divided government and a need for bipartisanship, the one issue that always comes up is infrastructure. And that's going to be our top issue moving into 2021. Once we get a stimulus or relief package that addresses the pandemic, moving on to infrastructure, and obviously addressing the country's infrastructure needs and shoring up things like the Highway Trust Fund, which has been a long time coming. I think that that's going to be our number one priority, and where we see a possibility to make some real inroads with Republicans and Democrats and get something actually passed through a divided government.
Well, infrastructure is kind of like distribution. If you don't have content, the distribution doesn't mean anything. How is the new coming administration going to support small business? Is it through, I doubt, through taxes or reduction in taxes? You create a channel in infrastructure, but what are you going to put on that channel, and how is it going to be supported?
Well, I don't know exactly what the incoming administration is going to do when it comes to, as it pertains to small businesses and what exactly they have in mind. I mean, obviously they've run on a platform, and there have been a lot of ideas, particularly in the Democrat Party, that have been floated out there. I know that he's kind of been in the process of putting together his economic kind of advising team. And some of those folks probably not so friendly to business just based off of their resumes. And so that could be slightly disconcerting. But I think that, that any kind of impulses, to increase taxes and things like that, I think that's obviously going to be much more difficult to accomplish given the fact that he's going to be dealing with the Republican Senate. There may be things that he may try to pursue the route of going through executive orders. And I think that that's probably likely in a number of instances, but remains to be seen exactly what those are going to be and what the impact is going to be for small business. There are certainly things out there, like looking at the EEOC or overtime rule, things like that, that the administration could look to make changes on, but I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like. But I think infrastructure is probably going to be kind of at the top of the list, at least from the perspective of what Congress can do in divided government.
Well, thank you. And if anybody wants to join in as a small business owner, what would be the first step that you would recommend in getting involved so that they don't get left out?
Is that a question for me or for a small business?
Well, it could be for anyone. If I'm a business owner and I see that I could get left out, what's my first step to take to get my voice heard and to strengthen the small business presence? Because as I've said for years, small business is the foundation of all business. And if it's good for small business, it's good for everybody.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. No, I think, obviously, just being here, right? Just, being involved with the local chamber, participating and attending government affairs committee meetings, having a role to play in devising positions that your Chamber of Commerce takes on issues, and being as engaged in that policy process as possible. I think that that's going to be huge. And chambers are really kind of at the forefront in being the voice of business to government, really at all levels of government, local government, state government, federal. And I know that Rick has done a great job at the San Marcos Chamber. And certainly, they're very well plugged in with us at the U.S. Chamber as well. So I think just the more kind of involvement that you could have with your local chamber, public policy wise, so in the Government Affairs Committee, I think that that's great. And then obviously anything that you can do, to reach out to local elected officials and things like that is great. But the chamber has always kind of been able to play a leading role in helping to coordinate that as well.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to add, thanks Jennings, and John, thanks for the questions, is that our chambers here in North County work really well together. So just along the whole 78 corridor. So it's especially during this pandemic, we've at one point, and also with the cities, and I know Tessa's on the call with the EDCs, and so we really do work really well together. I don't know if other areas and regions have that type of collaboration, but we certainly do, and that makes a huge huge asset for small business owners. You know what? I got knocked out for a while, so it looks like everything went smoothly while I was gone. So I'm glad. I was worried because I've been having some technical issues, and now I have a power washer in front of me, so I apologize for any noise. Any other questions for Jennings?
I had one. I just wondered if you had any thoughts or comments on Prop 15 and the tax increase and how it was defeated and how it might impact us, and if you think that might resurface again.
Sure. Well, I have personal thoughts, I guess, on that more than anything. At the U.S. Chamber, we typically don't engage on state issues, so state propositions, things like that, ballot measures. We very rarely will engage on that. We're of course keeping track of it, just because it's in the interest of a lot of our membership, but we didn't weigh in officially. I can say personally, of course, I was happy to see it go down, and I think that most businesses were, but and also personally, I think that this is not going away. I mean, kind of these attacks on Prop 13 seem to surface and resurface all the time, and especially when you look at the fact that the margin was so narrow, and the margin on these continues to be narrower and narrower as time goes on. I'd be concerned that it could come up again.
Yeah, I just want to add too that with the chamber did take positions on 4 propositions. We do not get involved in endorsed candidates, but we have been getting more involved from an advocacy standpoint. We supported a yes vote on Prop 20 and 22 and a no on 15 and 23. So I think we were 3 out of 4. Mm-hmm. Jennings, thanks so much. That was a lot of information, and great job in summarizing all that happened this last couple of weeks. And you're always welcome to join us on our government affairs meeting or anytime. And I think sometime soon too, I'll get you on our chamber podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Rick.
At this point, let's go around the room for our regular reports, and I will start with Rourke.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see your faces again. It's been a crazy year so far, and it's almost over, thankfully. Hopefully that'll be a turn for the better going into 2021. Well, I'm here on behalf of Assembly Republican leader Marie Waldron. Just kind of wanted to share a brief kind of a statement from her, a little update on where we're at with small businesses and small business relief up in Sacramento. California's small businesses employ over 7 million people. They make up 95% of all businesses in this region. Most of them employ less than 100 workers. Businesses with 4 employees or less make up 65% of that total here in California. Before the pandemic, business in California was doing pretty good. But now small businesses are really suffering. Many of them are shut down, as you guys know, completely or partially. Thousands and thousands of people have been put out of work. Our office have helped thousands of people with unemployment insurance issues. And I know as we, unfortunately, it looks like we're back in purple now. I'm sure a lot of companies, a lot of businesses are going to be shutting down again. So if you or anyone does require assistance with unemployment insurance benefits, please feel free to contact our office. I'll post our number in the comments here. We'd love to be of any assistance and service that we can be. This past session in the legislature, they adopted some measures aimed at supporting businesses and helping workers, keep their jobs during the pandemic. One example, Marie was proud to support SB 1447, which provides tax credits to businesses to hire new employees given the current circumstances. But Marie knows that we need to do a lot more. Going forward, kind of some of her priorities. She wants to take a look at cutting unnecessary rules and regulations that don't impact health and safety for customers and for employees. She also wants to consider ways to shield businesses from lawsuits and litigation over COVID-19 exposure, which can be extremely costly and really destroy a business if they're not prepared for it. She's also interested in providing a sales tax holiday so that businesses can, lure customers back with some lower prices. And really, the last thing we should be doing right now is thinking about raising taxes. Right? That is unacceptable given the current circumstances. Since joining the legislature, Maria has consistently supported repealing these unnecessary, burdensome regulations. If you have any ideas of regulations, things that are affecting your business from the state side, please send me an email. I'll post my email as well. Love to share that with Marie, and she can definitely take a look at that and see what can be done with those regulations. So on that note, thank you so much for having me as always. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll shoot it back over to Rick.
Well, congratulations on the reelection. One thing I wanted to mention too for everybody we just added this last week on our website. We have a report card, and it's on the Chamber News, and it just shows how everybody voted. And both Assemblymember Waldron and Senator Jones, who represent San Marcos, very high marks as far as supporting small business. And Cal Chamber puts out job killer bills and opposing them, and they just rate really high on that. So Rourke, appreciate everything that Marie's doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick, and we're happy to fight for you guys.
Any questions for Rourke? Okay, let's go to Candace.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Candace. I'm from Supervisor Jim Desmond's office. And as Rourke mentioned, the County of San Diego is going back to the purple tier, unfortunately. This whole time, Supervisor Desmond has been advocating for small businesses, advocating for just our economy, getting people back to work, and he's continuing to do so. Throughout this, he really doesn't like the governor's kind of pick and choose approach to all of this, because it really hurts the businesses. And so just kind of going back, I'll just give you kind of a quick summary of what this is going to mean for the county. So, going back to the purple tier, we're going to be, at a minimum shut down for another 3 weeks. It's going to begin this Friday on the 13th. Pretty much all of the sectors like churches and restaurants, gyms, movie theaters, museums, aquariums, card rooms, they're going to be all indoor only. Retail operations is going to be scaled back to 25%. Schools that have not already opened in person won't be able to do so for who knows how long, 3 weeks or more. If the school is currently already opened and they have not kind of shut down and gone back open again, then they are allowed to continue. That leaves out a lot of schools. I know my daughter, she's been home for this whole time, and her school isn't really looking to go back anytime soon, unfortunately. So we're seeing we're going to be seeing a lot of negative effects from all of this. And I just want to also share with you a few of the health impacts that we got from the district attorney's office. Brady Children's Hospital is seeing an increase in suicide attempts and sexual and physical assault from kids not being in school, heightened truancy rate, increase in marijuana use in students, increase in internet crimes against children, substantial increase in drug overdose, especially in the 19 to 40-year-old range, and 40% of all overdoses in San Diego County are in North County. So that's really, frightening to hear. And I think, now's the time where we all have to kind of, band together and help out. One of the things that we're asking people to do at the next board meeting is to kind of call in, if you're a small business, share your story, share your struggles, so that we can, send that message to the governor and make sure that our voices are heard. Because in the past, it has really helped to gain traction. And I think the more people that we can get on board with, helping our economy to get back to the place that it was, the more successful that our county will be. So I think that's it for the county update. I know some of you know me in my role as the grants manager for the supervisor, and I know Jennings spoke to the group about the PPP funding. Our office just got done doing a second round of small business stimulus funding. And, we got over, I want to say about 200,000 or more requests for dollars, and actually million, I want to say. And we did give away a lot of money, but we can really see that, people are still struggling, and we try to divvy it up as best as we could. But, every business that we did end up funding only probably got, on average about $5,000, $5,000 to $10,000. So, which is probably only going to last, a few months. So we're hoping that, if there is other available funding, that we'll be able to, help more businesses out. So sorry for the the bleak update, but anybody have any questions for me?
Thanks, Candace.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the grants as well. We appreciate it, because I know, and Jennings alluded to this earlier too, about the 501c6s not being able to get PPP funds. So the stimulus grant that the county did was very helpful for the chamber. So thank you. And then the other thing that you had mentioned about calling in at the next meeting, please send me that information. I'll get it out to our members, because it is powerful. And I know we've done things like that in the past. It has made a difference. I know, it seems like a million years ago now, but it was probably back in May or some point when we had a letter campaign to the governor. So anything that your office can send to me, I will make sure that we message out to our members to try to get as many small business owners as we can on that, to call in at that meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll send it to you, Rick.
Thanks. Okay, next we'll go to Tess with the city.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tess with the City of San Marcos. So a few updates from us. We obviously had our election. So our incumbent, Sharon Jenkins, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Sharon Jenkins, is now been reelected. So she'll have another term. And then for District 4, Ed Musgrove is our new council member, it seems. So everything doesn't get called until early December. And then they'll be sworn in at the December 8th council meeting. So coming up really quickly. Yesterday was Veterans Day. We had our virtual event with Mayor Jones, and it's a really nice video if anyone wants to check it out on our website. So we couldn't have it at our Veterans Park, Helen Booger Park, but it was a nice event virtually. And then we're also celebrating in conjunction with Rick and the Chamber Small Business Saturday, which is on the 28th of November. So we had a proclamation at our council meeting on Tuesday, and it's, like everyone's been talking about, it's, an effort to support our small businesses in San Marcos and North County, like Nancy here on the call. And then a couple other things I just wanted to say, Candace. I've heard from so many businesses, even though it was, just $5,000 or $10,000 for our businesses, that really helped them. So even that small amount of money was super helpful for them. So thank you. And then also following up on the conversation from last time at the Government Affairs meeting with Stacey Carlson and her team and EDCO, I think some real traction's being made there. So I'm glad about that. And that's all from me.
Thanks, Tess. Any questions for Tess? Okay, next we'll call on Michelle with the Sheriff's Department.
Good morning. I'm going to go over some events that we've had recently. Our deputies have been participating in some food distribution events, which we've been trying to do during the whole time during COVID, because the events that we can participate in are clearly limited for everyone. And now clearly we're going back into purple, so that's going to probably be even more difficult. But I want to also talk about, we had our National Drug Take Back Day, which was the DEA event, but it was here at our station, and that was on October 24th. And from what I understand, it was very successful. Our deputies also participated in the City of San Marcos Ghouls and Goodies drive-through trunk or treat event, which I heard was a lot of fun, and a lot of great costumes were there. So, and then just want to also advertise that we do have our YANA program, which is You Are Not Alone, and it's meant for older citizens, older people who have no family or any way to have any assistance in the area. So if anyone is interested, or you know anyone that doesn't have a lot of ability to make sure that they're okay, our program, our YANA program, has our deputies and senior volunteers checking on them and calling them to make sure that they're okay on a weekly basis. So that's a really good program and been very, very helpful. So an example is if we call them and they don't answer the phone, we have deputies go out there to make sure that they're okay. So that's a good program because not everybody has family in the area and anyone that can check up on them. So it's a good thing, and it's a nice social thing as well for our deputies and for the participants. As you know, the holidays are coming, and so we have our holiday watch, which we focus a lot on the retail areas. Clearly, with retail being cut back quite a bit, I'm not sure how that's gonna be, but we're very cognizant of the holidays and people being sometimes victim of crimes because of people out purchasing and stuff. So we have our holiday watch, which we do every year. And also we have this Tuesday at the San Marcos Sheriff Station, we have the Senio Blood Bank coming and doing a drive here from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. here at the station at 182 Santar Place. So if you're interested and able to give blood, please come by and do so, because as we all know, the holiday season, there usually is a shortage. So we want to help out with that. And I think that's all I have.
Michelle, you mentioned the holiday watch. I think in the past, if there's anything you want to send to me that we can put in our newsletter, just to help any like tips for small business owners to be more vigilant or anything like that, just send my way. I'll make sure we message it out.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Next we'll call on Christine, Cal State San Marcos.
Hi, everyone. I am not sure what Sean Bradbury had updated you on the last meeting, but in case you don't know, the CSU has named a new Chancellor Select. His name is Dr. Joseph Castro, who currently serves as the president of Fresno State. So Dr. Castro is replacing Chancellor Timothy White, who will be retiring at the end of the year. He was actually going to retire over the summer, but pushed his retirement due to the coronavirus pandemic. So Dr. Castro will start at the beginning of 2021. He's worked for the University of California system for 23 years. And actually, he's a grandson of immigrants from Mexico and the son of a single mother. So he was the first in his family to graduate from a university. So he's got a very interesting background. So if you haven't had a chance to hear him speak, he's been making some rounds, doing some interviews. He just did one on NPR. His name is, again, Dr. Joseph Castro. And also just wanted to let you know that, just to remind you, for a Save the Date, our president, Ellen Neufeld, she'll be holding her second annual report to the community. This one will be a lot more accessible because it'll be held virtually this time around. And that's going to be held on Thursday, February 4th. So definitely, Rick, I will send you all that information once it's available.
Great, thanks, Christine. Any questions for Christine? Also, Christine, thanks again for Dr. Neufeld was our featured guest. We did a power lunch, I think a couple weeks ago. So thanks again for coordinating that. And then also we created a podcast out of that. So if you guys want to check that out, if you haven't already, it's you can access that on our website or on your smartphone.
And also, Rick, I know, I'm pretty sure everyone on this call knows, but the coronavirus testing site is still open at the Viasat Pavilion. And I just spoke with someone who used it recently, and very, very short wait. And the results are coming in within a couple days, as opposed to 3 to 4 days, I think is what they say. So just a reminder as the winter months are ahead of us.
Great, thanks for doing that. Oh, and welcome to the group. And can you tell, I don't know if everybody knows where Sean went, if you want to.
Oh, yes,
update on
I'm
Sean.
sorry. So yeah, so Sean Bradbury, my colleague, who was the director of government relations, so he left Cal State San Marcos, but for a positive reason. He actually went back to his home state of Connecticut to take on an elevated role with the Connecticut state school system. So he is actually doing well. He's able to be with his family, so he moved back home. And so I'll be attending these meetings in the interim until his replacement is found.
Great, thanks, Christine. Let's see, Stacy, the Unified School District.
Morning. So we, let's start with the elections. We have, it appears to be 3 new school board members, which is kind of unprecedented for us right now. And so I reached out to Dr. Gothold at the county, and he's offered to kind of help us if we need help as we onboard and transition our new board members, because right when they roll in, we will need to hire a new superintendent, and we're also currently in the process of hiring a CBO. And so that's a little bit of uncertainty, but I've been talking with Kevin a lot, and we're working really hard to come up with ways to get them onboarded quickly so that we can get to work as soon as possible. I did want to thank the people at the city and EDCO and the county who helped tie us into food distribution for our food shortages, and also the feminine hygiene distribution, feminine hygiene products distribution. I think that we've got things plugged in now, and there's some good work being done behind the scenes by people and their good collaboration. So I wanted to thank everybody for that. All of our elementary schools, we do have all grades back at elementary school, which is great. We have ramped up our athletic training in secondary, and we're doing small cohort group work at secondary. Our secondary schools will be going back live in, I believe, January 25th. Is the date that we're planning on bringing secondary back. Because we have already started with our elementary coming back and we're unified, we are taking that to mean that regardless of what tier we're in, we will be able to bring our secondary students back. And so we have plans for rolling that out, and we've really been working on that. One of the things that we did is we just implemented our COVID dashboard on our website so that parents can go online and see if we do have positive cases, where they are. We have a few, none of them originated at any of our school sites, but we did have a few positive, and so you can go onto our websites on our homepage to see it. It's pretty easy to access. The one thing that we have been having difficulty with at this point is our contact tracing. It just takes a lot of manpower, and we're kind of trying to refine that and figure out the best way to do that in a way that's really efficient. So we're kind of struggling with that, but I think that we have some good people on it, and our risk management people are taking that on. And so that was one thing that we're kind of working on to make sure that as secondary rolls back online, that we are doing it in a way that's safe for our students. I think that's it.
Great, thanks, Stacy. Any questions for Stacy? I do have to say, it warms my heart to see the little kiddos walking to school. We live right by Stanley Hill Elementary, so it's very nice on my way into the office to see the little kiddos. And then the other thing I wanted to mention to you too is that I did connect with Tiffany Campbell and I think David Cochran. So we're going to meet next week and just explore some different ways that the chamber can partner with the school district and really work on being that conduit between the students and their small businesses in San Marcos. So thanks for coordinating that.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be great to try to, to help provide some wraparound services for people and also just enrichment for our students, especially our secondary students who are stuck. Mine's home, mine's in the other room doing class right now. So, and she will be until January. So that would be so wonderful for them to have some sort of connection.
Yeah, because we are, we're working with Palomar College and we're working with the university, working to put together a membership package that includes such things as senior experience team and some internships with Palomar College. But as I've talked to some members and getting their input in that, they have said about, they've asked about high school students and internships as well. And so there is a demand for that, and some great opportunities for both the business owners and also certainly the students as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
From a chamber standpoint, I don't have anything really else to add. I think I hit on everything. We are working on a new event. We are planning on hosting a holiday farmers market down here in North City. So I want to thank Tess for all her help and working through things with the city. It's exciting to be able to do that. It's basically an expanded farmers market in the same location where we're at in North City. So just an opportunity to get more crafters and artisans. What we've seen with our farmers market is a lot of families, everybody's wearing masks, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. It works really well. So an opportunity for us to give some of the local vendors an opportunity to, again, we really want to push this shop local campaign. We want to at all times, but especially now during this crisis. So excited about having that, and we will be releasing more information in the coming days about details for that event, December 6th. Okay, anything else to add before we close? We're right about at time. So a lot of great information as always. I really appreciate everybody spending some time and providing this information. And also, I'm very glad to see we've got several chamber members on our call today too. As a chamber, we're really trying to push this out and get more involvement from our chamber members, because as you could hear, there's just a ton of great information that comes out of these meetings.
I just had one thing, if I could.
Sure.
I just wanted to say regarding the blood drive that we're having at the station, I do want to remind people that I think because of COVID, the San Diego Blood Bank is not taking walk-ups. So just have anyone that's interested go to the sandiegobloodbank.org website and sign up. We have several different appointments still left, so that would be great. Thanks.
What date was that on?
It's Tuesday, the 17th of November. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we will conclude today's meeting. Thanks again for everybody for taking time. Jennings, thanks again for coming on. Enjoyed all the updates from the post-election, and great information, everyone. Thank you.